Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Droid Life Show today, episode 145. It is Friday, July 7th. Big day. I'm your host, Kellen, with me, Tim. Tim, say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going? Tim here.
So for us today, I call it a big day because, well, we dropped our OnePlus 5 review. We've both been testing the same model, I think, right? The 8 gig, 128 gig midnight black version. So we've been testing those for a good 2 weeks or something now. 4th of July kind of got in there, but like 2 weeks. Reviews up, written review, video review. So we got plenty to talk about there. But we also have a Moto Z2 Play in-house, which I've already swapped for the OnePlus 5. We also have Motorola event on the horizon in just a couple of weeks, actually. Some other stuff too, like Red, the camera company, is making a phone. I have no idea why, but they are. There's some other stuff too, like new Note 8 renders. The Galaxy Note 7 is officially back for some damn reason. That sort of stuff. So, anyways, yeah, we wanted to start with OnePlus 5 because that's the big topic of the week, and then we'll work through it. So, anyways, our OnePlus 5 reviews are out, and I think mostly our opinions were pretty similar. For me, this phone, I guess there was like two hangups for me. And so in my review, this is kind of how I got it out of the way. I said, look, the design it's just kind of boring. It looks like a OnePlus 3 and an iPhone. But it doesn't necessarily offend me. Like, it's pretty sleek. Like, the nice matte black finish is cool. It's pretty minimal. There's not a lot of extra crap going on. Plus, it fits nicely in the hand. It's not super big or anything. So while the phone is kind of boring in terms of design, it's not offensive by any means. I wouldn't say don't buy it because the design looks like an iPhone if you think so. But for me, the big hangup is the camera. And so OnePlus spent a whole lot of time talking about, well, they talked about it before the phone was announced. They did like a whole thing, like with The Verge and stuff, right? Like a promo video. Basically, they talked about the camera was going to be this huge focus. And then they go out on stage and did the same thing. Like, the camera is so important. So we made dual cameras and it's awesome. And they announced that they partnered with DxO Mark well before they announced the phone. And then that sort of disappeared a little bit. And we'll talk more about that. But in my testing, I thought the camera, well, in my video review, I actually called it pretty bad, which I don't know that I've said about a camera in a long time. And I think why I said bad is just because most smartphone cameras now are pretty good. And this one, it was like, I remember I was taking all these photos, taking photos of stuff, and I hadn't really looked at the results. And I pulled up like Google Photos on my computer and just clicked on one, and it was like of my son, and he was standing like sort of in the shade, sort of in the sun. It was like a bright sunny day, and his whole face was just like muddied out by like the processing it had done. And then I went, wait a minute. And I started looking like photo by photo, and every single photo I took was just overly processed. And a lot of them were in pretty decent light. Like, I was at a Timbers match and like the sun was setting. So it was like pretty good lighting, and like the colors were off. The skies were like gray. It was like a bright blue sunny day. It's just, so camera, we can talk more about that, but camera is just not good enough. And so even though I think this phone has one of the best performing phones I've probably ever used, just crazy fast, stupid fast fingerprint reader. That's awesome. Software is great because it's basically stock Android with some little tweaks here and there that I appreciate. Battery life for me on T-Mobile was ridiculously good. So there's like all these things that are really great. And then the camera, like I can't carry a phone around that has a subpar camera when I know everybody else out there pretty much has a great camera. Those are sort of my basic thoughts.
I would agree with all of that. I really like the phone's hardware. The build quality seems great. I mean, it's very similar to the OnePlus 3 and 3T. I alluded to as much in my OnePlus 5 review. But the camera is a total deal breaker for me. OnePlus was on stage. I guess I'll take you back. So OnePlus, they get on stage, like, you know what? We're going to get the specs out of the way because we don't care about specs.
Yeah.
Then the entire show, they talked about how all great the specs were and how it made like this amazing package for starting at $479, which is a pretty darn good price for Snapdragon 835, dual cameras, 8 gig of RAM. Well, that's $539. But needless to say, they hyped up this phone big time, as they always do. It's OnePlus, so they hype. But then once I got the phone in hand, I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. I put a case on it, and so my girlfriend uses the OnePlus 3. And once we put the cases on there, I was picking up her phone and she was picking up my phone. We couldn't even tell them apart when they're just sitting there.
Oh, because she has a case on her OnePlus 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She has the sandstone case too. So we were getting them mixed up all the time. So I was like, okay, so that reminds me, I kind of wish that they had switched up the front a little bit, like maybe not to look exactly like
if it's just
last year's
laying
phone.
back down on a desk, it would look identical. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I had a little beef with that, but yeah, they switched up the back, dual cameras. It looks good. The phone feels good in hand, super nice build quality. All that is great. But then, once you dive into the camera, I just had a real problem with it. I went down to Central California and I was taking a lot of pictures, but then I got home and I was trying to write up this review and get picture samples that I wanted to show off. And I was like, oh shit, there are like no photos that are usable in here. Like they all just kind of look like crap. And I guess, that would for a review, like that makes them usable to show like maybe how bad it is. But at the same time, I was like, I had to ask you. I was like, dude, I need some like usable photos for this thing.
Yeah, because we always try to pick like the best of the best pictures,
right?
taken,
What it's
right?
capable of.
And we actually had to have a conversation between the two of us, like, you got any good ones?
Yeah, and yeah, I can't remember the last time that really happened because I mean, lately, G6, S8, Pixel. All these phones are coming out with amazing cameras. So the fact that OnePlus, stood on stage for a long time, talked about how they worked with Sony to make a custom sensor, how they worked with DxO to like really ensure that they were putting their best foot forward. Like this is going to be a huge improvement over the OnePlus 3 and 3T. Nah, like they just fell flat on their face. And I think that actually reflected in a lot of the reviews that I read. But I had hoped that maybe, they sent out that update. It was sort of like a week after launch. They sent out the big camera fix update. It didn't fix anything. So
I actually wish I could test it before that to see like
right.
if anything changed or not. But
all I know is, I was really looking forward to using an actual portrait mode because I'm such a wannabe iPhone guy. I want to use portrait mode, but dude, it sucks. Like it puts this halo effect. The bokeh is like, it melts into the person's face and totally unusable. The one usable portrait I got was of my dog. It still wasn't. Yeah, it muted itself. Oh. But so I was just really disappointed in the camera. And for me, like you said, I need to have like a camera that can snap shots wherever I am. I might see a bug that I like and want to put it on Instagram. I can't have it all blurry and whatnot, especially when there's phones that do so much better.
Yes.
Then there's the little things, like the water resistance you mentioned. I also felt that the 8 gigs is a little overkill. OnePlus did not really specify why anyone would need 8 gigs. And don't get me wrong.
Like if the phone can even use that 8 gig.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Android OS, as far as we know, Google has tried to keep it as minimal, like as a RAM heavy OS as possible because they want it to be able to run on any device. Like a $50 phone can be able to run Android. The fact that anyone would think that 8 gigs is necessary or required or even cool, it's like right now it's a little overkill. I could see it, maybe in the future, like, okay, there's a reason to have 8 gigs of RAM. They don't even push this. It's like a VR phone, an AR phone. It's only got a full HD display, so it's not like you're going to be using it for VR anyway. Even cardboard, you're going to hurt your eyes with looking at all the pixels.
Well, and when you talk about the future with OnePlus, like,
yeah.
They don't update their phones for more than a year. So it's not like that, like that 8 gig will mean something in 2 or 3 years because they're not going to support the phone then. You know what I mean?
We have to hope, right? So they merged their, they had a team working on the Android source that they were pushing out to phones, and they had their Oxygen OS. They have merged those teams. So I'm really hoping, that this phone sees at least 2 years of major Android upgrades. So we should be thinking Android O and Android P, at least for the OnePlus 5. But then 3 years of security updates. Is that probably going to happen? I don't know. But like, that's, I guess, what I expect, when you're paying a price, right? You're investing in this company. And if Google can do it and they don't, we don't know. Yeah, if Google can do it. But the fact is, if you're going to be in the market and offer these phones to people, to consumers, who are spending their hard-earned money and they love your company because there's so many OnePlus fans out there, you got to pay it back, right? Give them the support that they expect. So, or that they deserve even.
Yeah, if you're making phones nowadays and you're selling them as top tier, competitive flagship type phones, you can't just stop supporting them after a year. And we don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll find out with the OnePlus 3, right? If it gets past anything past O, and then this phone if it gets anything past O. But yeah, so I think this is a really good phone. And it was an important review for us because we called the OnePlus 3 and 3T phone of the year last year. Like they were our favorite phones overall. And so this was a big one. We were like, can it match that of last year? And I honestly don't know what happened with the camera. Like I know they have a small-ish team probably working on this. They don't have, and probably hundreds of people working on the camera that maybe Samsung does, but they talked so much about it, and it's just not where it should be. So my worry is that, like, will it get better? Can they continue to improve with software? Can they fix all this terrible processing and stuff like that? Like one company I'd point to is Sony, right? Like Sony, they make their own damn camera sensors. And I always felt that they could be different. I haven't tested a Sony phone in a while because they come here and they're stupidly overpriced and no one buys them or cares about them. But they used to be like, here's our brand new sensor and our new flagship phone. We can show you how awesome mobile photography could be. And then like the camera would be garbage because the software team behind it was terrible. So like that could be the case with OnePlus. Like maybe they just don't have the camera talent to optimize the camera properly. Like what we talked about Google too. Remember, like for years, Google's like, our next is this camera's the best, this one's the best, and they were just crap until we got to 6P, 5X, and now Pixel. The camera is obviously really, really good. So like even Google, it took them years. So I don't know if OnePlus will be able to fix this. I think the camera sensor is probably fine. Like they talked about how it's like from Sony and it's custom and all of that. Like that's probably not the problem. It's probably on the software side. I guess like it's if you're considering this, you just have to go, well, hopefully they can make this thing better. I just don't know. And I'm not, as someone who like and it shouldn't just be me, but like anyone who's in the market for a phone should look around and go, okay, well, all these other phones have great cameras. So like, I don't know why you would take the chance on OnePlus right now, especially when the phone's like not demonstrably cheaper than the competition like it used to be, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year, phone of the year, because the 3T also, it didn't have like the best camera, but it really made up for it in that it was a lot less expensive than the other flagship devices. But it was just a really good package altogether. The hardware was good. It still had this really good fingerprint reader. The software was sweet. And so we kind of looked past, being like not an excellent camera, but a fine camera. But this year, like the camera's actually bad. So the fact that it's actually bad and we have to actively like go out and talk about it being bad, it's just like an automatic no, sorry. Not even like a contender for me for phone of the year. Like it's a cool phone, don't get me wrong. It's just like not even like, I know once Pixel 2 drops, once the Note 8 drops, once all this new stuff comes out, like we're gonna forget about the OnePlus 5.
which is too bad because everything else about the phone, I actually pretty much like. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have water
Yeah.
resistance, but like I actually like the look of it and the feel of it. And I'm telling you, like the software experience and performance here, it puts the Galaxy S8 to shame. Like it is that fast. Like it is so fast. And the fingerprint reader, you just like barely brush your thumb on there and it unlocks. Like it's insane. And it looks nice. Like again, sure,
Mhm.
it looks kind of iPhone, but like it looks nice. It feels nice. The performance is great. The software is great. I had excellent battery life. Like there's so many good, like you can just run down this list of things where you're like awesome, 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 awesome. And then you get to the camera. And you know, I take a lot of pictures. I got a kid, I eat food and I take pictures of my food and beer. And when I travel, I feel like I take more pictures than ever now. And when I got back from like like, thankfully I didn't take this on any trips. It's just been like around town pictures. But like, I just remember that first day I looked, it was like, what are these pictures? Like, this can't be real. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a 100% deal breaker for me.
For me too.
If you don't take a lot of pictures, go for it. It's
Go
actually
for
a
it.
really, really great phone if you don't take pictures. That's what I would say to
And
that.
just opt for the 6 gig, 64 gig option. Like if you want this phone and don't care about pictures, I'm sure the 6 gig performs just as fine. I don't think that extra 2 gigs is really making a huge performance difference.
Well, yeah, and if you're not taking a lot of pictures, you're not going to
You
be
don't need that in
storing them
storage
on your
anyway.
phone. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't need that extra storage. So
Yeah. So if you don't use your smartphone for what a smartphone is made to do these days, check out the OnePlus 5.
okay, let's talk about the jelly screen thing for a while. I think you were gone when all this drama went down, but do you know what I'm talking about? The jelly scrolling thing.
Yeah, and I don't really notice it on my
Okay,
phone.
I didn't notice it at all. And people
Yeah.
watching my review were like, "Oh, I could see the jelly," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Really? If you can,
What
it must be like this much movement." Like, so
Yeah.
I haven't had an issue, and I know there's some talk about how they had to invert the display
The
panel
display.
because of the design, and that's what's causing it, and things like that, and that there is no fix and all that stuff. And I get why people are potentially outraged by it. I haven't really noticed it. So, and if I did, because people said they saw it in my review, it's obviously minor enough. I haven't cared. So I don't really have any. I don't have like a response to that. I don't know. I haven't noticed it.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any like problems like that.
No.
It's just I know it's been a bad week for OnePlus, as the headlines tell me. Oh, it's been a bad week for OnePlus. They got jelly screens, bad cameras. Get out of here.
Yeah. Too bad. All they had to do was put a nice camera in this thing.
Yeah, well, speaking of, want to talk about the DxO score that
Yeah,
was actually given to this phone?
let's talk about DxO. Yeah. So DxO Mark, again, before the phone was ever announced, OnePlus came out and said, we're partnering with DxO Mark and we're going to fine tune this camera, whatever they're going to do. You know, they were kind of vague on what the actual partnership was going to be all about, but we just assumed that was going to mean like a DxO Mark score, and it was going to be like stupid off the charts, and everyone was going to say, you guys just paid for this score, like everyone does, right? And so then they just like, the launch day came and they were just silent. Like they didn't even mention DxO Mark. There was no mention of DxO Mark on their website, the listing, the sales page, nothing. And I actually reached out to them, both OnePlus and DxO was like, hey, what's the deal? And OnePlus got back to me and they just said, like, I think they told me it's an ongoing thing is really all they said. I can probably pull that up. And DxO Mark has like no press contact page anywhere. So I'd use like their generic contact form. And they did get back to me like after a week, but it was like they wanted to have a conference call to talk about it and all this stuff. And by then, like we knew this score was coming. So let's see, what did they say to me? They just said we worked. This is OnePlus. They just said we worked with DxO during the development of the OnePlus 5 to optimize camera performance. Like that's all they said. And then this week, yeah, they're like, oh, the score is coming. And they kind of hyped it. And then they released it and it was an 87.
87.
So an 87 puts it below all the phones that we would agree it's below. The HTC U11 is up top on DxO Mark's chart. Then the Pixel, then the HTC 10, Galaxy S8, Galaxy S7, and whatever the Sony Xperia X performance is. And it puts it online or on par with the Huawei P10, Moto Z, the original one, the Galaxy S6 Edge, or I'm sorry, the S6 Edge Plus, Xperia XZ, and the Xperia Z5. So it's not like it's bad. It's up there, but
Score-wise.
Score-wise, yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of people have an issue with it seeing that high of a score.
I do personally. I was looking at some of the photos that DxO sort of, they show off like, hey, here it is compared to other phones. And it's like, and they said like, oh, it matches that of this top tier phone. Like, what? Are we even looking at the same thing? Like you tweet
specifically on their review, there's this picture and it's like of this older gentleman that's cropped in. And Yeah, it says fine detail preservation in outdoor and bright light shots is excellent and on par with some of the best performers we've tested, such as the Galaxy S8, iPhone 7, and Google Pixel. And
That's a lie.
and yeah, like anyone, like you could be blind and look at this thing and it's like OnePlus 5 picture, kind of a blurry mess. Galaxy S8 picture is like sharp as a tack detail wise. And then the Google Pixel is like a little blurry, but not so much as like they're not even close. Like the Galaxy S8 like stomps all over everyone in this shot, but the Pixel is even better than, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just right on par. So funny. Everyone's like, really? So yeah. Do DxOMark scores matter?
Not anymore. They don't.
I don't think so. Like they're one of those things like Google and HTC have been two of the companies to really like trot out these scores and go, look, we're really highly rated. And I think a lot of us are pretty skeptical over whether or not these things actually matter.
Well, I just feel bad for the consumers. Like
because these are what gets put in commercials and like on billboards.
Exactly.
And stuff. Yeah.
I want it to reflect what it actually is, and this score does not reflect that, in my opinion. I think that it should be more of like a kind of like a consumer review type deal. What's that? The consumer reports or whatever. Like, these very objectively, based kind of trials or whatever a phone must go through. But then they slap an 87 on it. It's kind of like, there's just no way.
And so our understanding of DxOMark, right, is that companies pay them to help them fine tune things like camera and test the performance and that stuff. And so when they, like when they come out with this score and we know that a company's been working with them, it's hard not to kind of go,
OnePlus should get their money back. That's what it means. I mean, DxOs.
Well, so then you wonder, like, how much did they really work with them?
Yeah.
What was the point? Yeah, I mean, so they listed the pros and cons, right? And the cons are this sounds so terrible. Occasional strong loss of details in outdoor conditions. Like outdoor conditions are typically where you have the best lighting, right, ever, and it's a strong loss of details, which is exactly what I saw in most of the pictures I took.
Yes.
Oh man,
that's not what you want. You want stronger details in outdoor settings. Come on, 87.
So yeah, they got an 87, which is not terrible. It's not the worst, but like when you look at these, like they randomly today pushed out an LG G6 DxOMark score, which they hadn't, and the phone's been out for how long? And they gave it like an 84, which is well below like this. And
what?
And I don't ever remember the G6 being like my favorite camera ever. And it's been a while since I've tested it. But I don't remember being disappointed in it. I'll just say that. I remember it being kind of slow, but I don't remember being disappointed in the results. So
the results I saw when I did that camera comparison, I mean, the G6 was right up there with the S8. It actually came down to...
You just did one, didn't you? Like not that long ago?
It came down to a very subjective thing where it was all about kind of like the color tone that people saw. Like, oh, is that flower really purple or violet or whatever? It really came down to just tonality. And
that's right. You just did that with the S8, right?
Yeah. So did that with the S8, G6, and the Pixel, and the G6 was right up there with those. And what I want to do, but it'd be just a total waste of time, in my opinion, because I just don't like the camera at all on the OnePlus 5. I want to do like a OnePlus 5 versus S8 versus G6 and just see how they stack up. But like,
well, we probably should, because then it could potentially prove that you and I have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
I hope that's the case.
That we're just a bunch of haters.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. Yeah. It is. I'll shoot some stuff this weekend.
So anyway, that's well, we did run a poll this week though, asking if people care about dual cameras, because this was one of the big things, right? Is OnePlus was like, we did dual camera. We were going to do it last year, but we didn't want to have to educate everyone on like, this is like almost word for word what they said. Like, we didn't want to educate everyone on why this is important. So we let Apple do it. And now we're just going to come through and sell a bunch of phones with this dual camera. So we just asked people, and because Motorola is doing dual cameras now, we're pretty sure the Note 8 will have dual cameras. We just asked people, is it an important feature? And 57% of our readers were like, not really. Another 25% said not sure, which probably just means they need someone to prove to them that it's worthwhile. And only 18% said yes. So
Wow. I
So
would
OnePlus bet the bank on dual cameras, and apparently, at least our readers, they don't give a shit.
I would rather have a single good camera like on an S8 or a Pixel than two crappy cameras like on the OnePlus 5. So I mean, even LG, you know, they've been rocking that dual camera pretty hard now, and I think their camera's just fine. So I don't know what about OnePlus. You know, again, I really just hope it's a software thing and they can tweak on it and keep working on it. I mean, they've got custom Sony sensors. Like it should just work. So
It should just work.
I'm triggered about it. I'm just
I've seen
triggered.
some people mention that if they install like a third-party camera app, that it takes better pictures.
Hmm.
I just
Oh, that's
when we test stuff, that's obviously something we could test, but we try to test phones in the way they're presented to us because most consumers aren't going to know to go out and like download a separate camera
they
app,
shouldn't have to.
and they shouldn't have to. Exactly. So when we test stuff, that's why we always test like the stock launcher that comes with it, the stock camera app, stock everything, because we want to test because that's how the company says like this is the best. So here, take it this way. So, but I have heard people suggest that, and I haven't tested.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. So
It'd be worth a look.
we'll find out.
Anyway, so any final thoughts? Oh, I guess I railed a little bit in my video about price, and you and I do differ on this. I just kind of said I see us creeping higher and higher up, and I don't necessarily know that we're getting like a better and better package each time. I think we are over like the OnePlus One, which was only $299, and I get that they tried to just make a big splash there, and they probably took a hit on that phone, but we're now at $500. Like you can buy a G6 for about $500 at this point. Unlocked, I think you can buy a G6 for like $400 or something like that. And we know that phone will get support for probably 2 years at least. So I think like the price increase, I don't necessarily like seeing that continue to climb when OnePlus still has quite a bit to prove, like software updates, like whether or not they're actually going to support their things. And you know, they're not putting in like water resistance, and they're not putting in a quad HD display. So like, not that I care about quad HD displays, but like that's usually what's been justification for a price bump is when these companies start pushing, right? So like when Samsung went all quad HD and did some other things, it was like in water resistance, their prices went up. So OnePlus hasn't done that. They haven't done quad HD. They're using what like similar shells and bodies to what they've used in the past. They're probably getting a damn discount on them because Oppo is just handing them to them, I think. And that price just keeps going up. So I get they want to be profitable. I obviously want them to make money as well because it's fun to review their phones and stuff like that. But the price increases is a bit weird.
Like you said, we do differ on it. I feel as though if the price is going to get bumped up, at least give me something that's worth that increase. Like I'm okay paying a premium price for a premium phone. I've never had that problem. However, the 8 gigs of RAM and this crappy dual camera, that's just not worth it to me. So like I guess I'm in the same boat as you currently. But say like OnePlus kind of changed it up and actually put out a camera that was really good and also introduced a quad HD and water resistance. I made a prediction in my review that said, all right, 2018, we're going to get a $599, like a $600 OnePlus 6, and it's going to have quad HD and or water resistance. And that's just the name of the game. I feel like they have nowhere to go but up right now in terms of specs because, well, yeah, we ask for so much as consumers. We want everything in the sun to be in our phones, and then we expect it to have like a crazy good price tag. So they're going to have to cut back on something, like maybe not use like the next gen processors, maybe not use 8 gigs of RAM to sort of like meet the needs for everyone, but also have a decent price point if that's the type of model they want to keep pursuing. I think they did that cheap phone $299 to start because, hey, what better way to get Android nerds excited than to give them a good phone at a cheap price?
I think that's exactly why they did it for sure.
Yeah, so I just see it to keep going up. I think they want to compete with the likes of HTC, LG, stuff like that. I don't know if they just want to.
I just think it's a mistake.
I'm sure
I
it
think if you're
probably
paying
is.
$600 for a phone, you're probably going to go with a brand that you 100% trust rather than this kind of upstart company that they're only, 3 or 4 phones in, so
Right. Well, that's like your general consumer. I mean, general consumer doesn't even know OnePlus exists. But
right.
then you've got those hardcore fans who do trust OnePlus. I mean, they go, and when you have, Marquez Brownlee showing up at their little pop-up events in New York, they think, well, hey, man, I mean, OnePlus must be the tits.
Yeah.
So, I'm I'm okay with the price going up as long as it's worth it. I guess that's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just struggling to find why it's worth that price increase when I'm not seeing them do a whole bunch of new stuff. So I don't know. Joseph in the chat asked, what phone has quad HD and water resistance that's 479? Well, I'm looking at eBay right now, and you can buy an LG G6 for $409, and it has a quad HD and water resistance.
Water resistance.
And
a
and you
headphone
can
jack.
bring that to me and say like, well, that's like an import and it's unlocked. Well, that's what the OnePlus is. It's an unlocked import, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, the reason the G6 starts out at $600 is because they're selling it through carriers, and the carriers basically say like, you have to price it at this. But yeah, I can go on eBay right now and buy an LG G6 with a quad HD, minimal bezel, water resistance, wireless charging, probably a quad DAC, all this stuff, dual cameras, and it'll probably get updates for 2 years, and it's $409. I'm just throwing that out there.
But that's why it's on eBay.
Oh yeah, see, I knew like, okay, so you're telling me OnePlus's website is better than like an eBay dealer? Like,
Victor's pissed.
it's like, why is that a difference?
He wants
a new one.
They
They
are
are new.
new. Come on,
These
man. They
are
are
new. Not every. You have to understand, eBay is not like a used goods market. Like, these are brand new phones that have never been opened, that are sealed.
And maybe he doesn't know
You should probably go on eBay.
Yes, we read
eBay.
Yeah, go on eBay. Anyway, before we were so rudely interrupted by Victor.
Yes, we were. I mean, you could buy the LG G6 Plus, the brand new one, and it's like $609. That thing was just announced like a week ago. But
didn't I see a Galaxy S8 on sale, unlocked in like the 500 range recently on eBay?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, and you could, the official US unlocked one, where Samsung was just selling it. They were selling it at $100 discount, and you could trade in any phone and get $200 off. So it was like $425 for a brand new Galaxy S8.
That's pretty good. I would take that phone over the
waterproof, quad HD, whatever the hell else you want to say. Like, there are phones available at that price, is all I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how OnePlus is justifying a $500 plus phone when they didn't really add anything new other than a crappy dual camera module up top
and 8 gigs of RAM.
And 8 gigs of RAM, which Android probably can't use.
Yeah.
Anyway, any final thoughts? OnePlus is just, I love the OnePlus 3 and 3T. I love the software on this guy. I can't do it with the camera. Victor, eBay stuff is not used. Yes, you can buy, like, Victor, go on eBay right now and search for LG G6 and tap on the top one. You'll see in the listing, it says brand freaking new. Like, this is not like, they've been selling new stuff on eBay for a really long time. It has warranties, all sorts of stuff. This is not like a new concept.
As for my,
I'm sorry. I don't really know what to say. I think he won't even listen to me.
Like new doesn't count.
What do you mean? Oh my God.
All right. Anyway,
you finish.
My final thoughts is, good phone. Just the camera was a deal breaker for me. Everything else was pretty sweet. That was really my only downside to the phone. I personally had not the best battery life. I was using my phone super weirdly and sporadically. So I just wasn't able to get the best testing out of it. But Kellen says he had amazing battery life on T-Mobile. I was using AT&T. And I didn't have the same experience, but that was my time with the OnePlus. If you want any more, go read my review. Go watch Kellen's review. They were posted this morning, so they're fresh off the presses.
Yes, sir. God, this listing says brand new in sealed box.
No.
Victor's like, it's used. It's on eBay.
Like new is still used.
Come on, Victor. Come on. I don't know how many phones I've actually bought off eBay, and yes, they are all brand new, never been touched.
Oh man.
All right. Anyway, let's move on. So Moto Z2 Play, I have one. Moto Z2 Play was actually announced a few weeks ago, and it was announced for Canada and Brazil, but it's now available on Verizon. And so we have the Verizon model. I've already been testing it off and on a little bit for the past couple of weeks. Obviously, full time now. And even though this is kind of a mid-rangey phone, the Moto Z Play from last year was such a big deal. I love that phone, so we definitely want to give this one a spin. And it's the Z2 line, which is in the works. So just some initial thoughts are, even though it's stupidly thin and they took battery capacity from last year's model, battery life has been really good. I'm only kind of in like first or second charge, but I am 21 hours in, 29% left, and 5 hours of screen on time. And that's Verizon, and I get terrible Verizon service at my house. So that's pretty incredible. I don't know what the camera's like. I haven't tested at all. Fingerprint reader's fine. It's a Moto Z like shape and everything. Like it doesn't really feel that new, which is kind of weird. Kind of feels like last year's regular Moto Z with how thin it is. But
Man, the whole lineup just seems so boring now because they can't change anything about it. Like I appreciate Moto Mods and I appreciate their support, for the people who invest into that. But man, it just sort of like makes the whole lineup bland.
yeah, I actually would not be surprised if next year they like change it,
Just
because
yeah,
how can you go 3 years in a row with the same damn phone just because of these Moto Mod things? Because like how much more can you improve it, right? Like
right.
this one still has a 1080p display, and the Z2 flagship has a quad, and like your battery capacity is limited by keeping it thin. Like there's so there's some things there that really limit them. So anyways, we'll have a review of this phone hopefully next week. So far so good. Oh, and they did put a headphone jack in this one, even though it's stupidly thin.
How thin is that phone? Do you know right off millimeter?
I don't.
Like
It's got to be like
5?
6 or something. It's
Jeez.
it's thin, yeah. It's not. You remember last year the regular Moto Z? I think like I complained quite a bit about it was too thin. It wasn't that comfortable to hold. This phone feels a little that way. Like it's so thin, it just feels like this like thin edge like digging into your hand, and it's
Hmm.
pretty wide. And but battery life's great, and it's got that sort of stock Android experience that we love. So, anyways, Z2 Play.
Nice. Looking forward to your review.
Yeah. All right. Motorola, speaking of them still, they have an event in New York City on July 25th. And we're pretty much expecting the Moto Z2 Force, because we don't think there's going to be a Z2 and a Z2 Force like how last year we had the Z and Z2 or Z and Z Force. I think it's just going to be the Z2 Force and then the Z2 Play, which I have, rather than three. And that makes sense. I don't know why we needed two last year. That was stupid. And it's kind of been leaking. So I think EvLeaks posted a whole bunch of pictures of it this week for AT&T, and yeah, it looks just like a Moto Z from last year. Actually, it looks just like this, where the antenna band is running around this sort of ridge. But it has dual cameras, and that's really the only way you could tell the difference of it from this. And it has more of a brushed metal back, and it's also headed to AT&T supposedly. So the Verizon exclusive things are apparently sort of done. We'll probably see that. We may see the Moto X4, although I kind of doubt that. So the Moto X4 is this phone that's been floating around out there for a while. But EvLeaks keeps saying it's coming at Q4. So I kind of doubt that Motorola will announce it. I think they're just going to do the Z2 Force and a bunch of new Moto mods is my guess.
Hmm.
But they are so this is such a random story, but last week, well, it was actually a couple of weeks ago, but last week people found or realized it, or maybe it was earlier this week, but in Ghana, of all places, they announced the Moto, I think the Moto Z, I think just the regular Moto Z line and maybe like a Moto G or something. But as they were doing the original Moto Z line announcement, this was like in late June. The guy on stage is like, check out all these Moto mods. And he shows off like this 360-degree camera. Moto mod that no one had ever seen before. And then like on their promo materials, like running across the screens, there was like all these other, like a new speaker and some other stuff. And so all the US press was like, hey Moto, like I reached out to them, was like, so you want to talk about this? And they're like, we have no comment. So obviously in Ghana of all places, like they outed this stuff a little bit early. So I would imagine all those Moto mods will be announced at July 25th along with the Z2 Force. Just pretty funny though.
Poor Moto.
Yeah. Poor Moto. But they're doing a lot, although it seems like they're announcing something like every couple of weeks. I don't know what's up with that. You know, like we had earlier the Moto G5 earlier in the year, and then it was like Moto E. Yeah. And then all of a sudden this X4 starts leaking, and then we got the Z2 Play. Now we got the Z2 Force coming. There's nonstop. But yeah, we'll be on hand for that one in NYC. Okay, so this is such an this one came out of nowhere this week. The red phone.
The red hydrogen.
Hydrogen. So
it's pretty awesome.
Red, for those not familiar, makes really, really high-end cinematic cameras. Like Red has been the cameras behind I don't know how many major films.
Every Marvel movie, like Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, Ragnarok, or whatever. It's all Red.
Their cameras that, I mean, what's the cheapest Red? Probably like $30,000, $25,000. Like they're crazy expensive.
If you get one used off eBay.
Oh yeah, if you get them on eBay, they're probably just used.
I'm sorry.
So funny. MKBHD shoots with Red. I think a lot of tech YouTubers are starting to shoot with Red. I have no idea why, but like, look, if they can afford it, go for it. It seems overkill because you're all the processing on YouTube, but whatever. Like, it's kind of cool. Either way, that company, the Red company that makes all those ridiculously expensive, nice cameras, they announced this week they're making an Android smartphone. And do you want to talk about this thing?
Do I? Yeah. So we got two tiers to start it off. First, we've got the aluminum priced at $1,200. Then we've got the titanium for $1,600. Pretty expensive device, but I wouldn't expect anything less from a company such as Red. Now, we don't have any other specifications. What we do have a couple of things. First, we know that it has a 5.7-inch hydrogen holographic display. This display apparently features nanotechnology that seamlessly switches between traditional 2D content, holographic multi-view content, 3D content, and interactive games. So if you want a phone that does AR, VR, 3D, H4V, which is their 4-view content from Red, this is the phone for you. Basically, I guess if you're a director or someone like Marquez Brownlee who shoots with Red, this phone could be for you. Your average consumer is not I don't think gonna be picking this up. However, if you are interested, you can buy it right now, or pre-order essentially, and it's supposed to ship in Q1 of 2018. Now, do I think that this phone will actually ever ship? It's really hard for me to say.
Like 25%.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's totally possible. I mean, we don't know much about it, and which is odd, right? You would think maybe if Red really was like, I guess I'm sure they're serious about it, but if we were really going to expect a phone, saying it's going to launch in 2018, not giving us a real good list of specs, and then saying that anything and everything about the phone could change before release is kind of a tough call and decision to make. We do know it's got, we believe it's got USB Type-C, a headphone jack, and like a weird kung fu grip on the side.
It does look like it has a kung fu grip, yeah.
Yeah, like it's a cool looking phone. The hardware looks like amazing, I guess you could say. Like it looks like one of their cameras, right? Yeah. We know they say it's modular, and so we expect some crazy expensive mods to go with it. I mean, this phone is just like it's a baller phone. Yeah.
Could be pretty cool, but
I mean, A
because it does have
holographic
like it has like the
display.
pins that like the that like this phone has like down
Yes.
here. It has like
Yeah.
pins to watch or stuff. It's got like ratchet holes and stuff because you're gonna be cranking on this thing. It's
I
just so weird. But yeah, like some of the text, like so price. Did you already talk about the price?
I did. I mean, it starts at twelve hundred
Yes, it's
dollars,
1200 for
and then
aluminum.
$1,500 for titanium, or 1,600. Excuse
16.
me, 1,600.
So it says this is on the notes for the details. It says orders placed today will ship from my own personal first production batch.
Who is this
who's the
guy?
my like who's the red guy? Should I know him? I have
Yeah,
no idea.
I thought they
And
were
then
like
it's
a company,
that's what I thought too.
not a single dude.
I can also assure you that after this initial batch, we will not be able to fill all orders on time due to display limitations. We will not guarantee these prices at the time of release. So, so that sounds like pay $1,200 now, and when we get to the release, we may need some more money.
But
Oh,
they
it's
all
so
they also
funny.
say that, I mean, that price doesn't include shipping or anything. They said that
Right.
that'll all be settled, once the phone is like ready to ship. So
Yeah.
it to me, it sounds like a total cluster. And if we know anything about the Comet phone, if we know anything about Sagas and Indiegogo, Kickstarter, all that stuff, just say no. It's totally okay. Like if you really want the red phone, Marquez, I think he ordered two. He'll probably end up trying to give them away or something afterwards.
Yeah.
Just wait
Just
for that.
yeah, just win one from him.
Exactly. Because it's just, no.
It also says so there's like one picture, right? It's like a
Yes.
render and it barely shows any of the phone. Like we don't even know what this thing really looks like. We don't know what the resolution of the display is, nothing. And so there's a note at the bottom that says design shown may change. Shocker. And it says specs and delivery dates can change anytime and for any reason. So like we don't know like what is actually in this or will be in this. We don't know when it's coming. We just think maybe Q1 2018, and it might be 1200 and 1600, but it could be like $3,000. We don't know.
Is it ever going to get Android updates? I mean, we don't know anything.
You know.
So I would hold off, folks. You can cancel your order if you've already ordered and now you're thinking twice, like, oh crap, I have to make a mortgage payment,
Yeah.
or a couple of them. Then you can cancel at any time. You'll get your refund. That's what I would do personally.
Yeah. Yeah. It says you can get refunds at any time. So
Yeah, go
that's
out,
good.
buy your wife a really nice dinner, or like, down payment on a car or something. Like, do something else and get this phone. I don't know.
What
Not
a wild thing though. But
totally wild.
it is
Totally
super
wild.
interesting. Like I
It
do
is.
want to play with one, but
Oh yeah.
it's not like they're gonna have review units, and I'm not about to fork out $1,200 for this thing.
Nah.
Definitely gonna be one of those where you sit back and just wait for MKBHD to do his thing.
Yep.
How interesting though. It just came out of nowhere. Like they sent like a tweet. They were like, here, we got a new phone. And everyone's like, but you make phones now?
So odd.
It is so odd. And yeah, one half angled picture of the thing. We have no idea. It's a mystery. It's definitely Kickstarter-esque feeling though, which is fine, I guess. It's not like they're not a reputable company. I mean, they make some of the greatest cameras on earth, right?
Of course.
So
Yeah. Bertzer says he's gonna wait for Red Phone to be on eBay used. So that's my suggestion. Yeah, I could see that. They'll be hitting swap in no time.
I asked the chat if Victor left, and I think Victor left, or maybe
Oh.
he's buying stuff. Maybe
Yeah, he
Victor is on
discovered
eBay just
it.
buying everything's like, oh my god, it's all new. Who knew? He's just shopping. Victor ain't got time to chat. He's shopping.
Oh, that's too good.
All right, in Bixby news,
Ooh.
Bixby is apparently still delayed or delayed again. I feel like every couple of weeks there's like a Bixby delay story. This time it's because Samsung apparently just doesn't have the data. They don't have the data to show you awesome information at all times when you need it, when you speak it. And there's also some communication language barrier stuff, I believe, from Korea and the US in terms of Bixby in the US. So that's kind of the update there. Obviously, there's still the early access program, and like I have it on my phone. Test away. It got an update today.
It
Got a new
sucks.
feature. Yeah. It's Bixby Voice is I think it's very cool. It's just I think, like I said a couple weeks ago, it's just overwhelming. Like there's so many things it does that I don't even know where to start. I guess maybe that's a good problem to have, and I should just start throwing commands at it and see what it does. But I mean, I just ask it things and it just does weird stuff. Like
Because
one
it
of
doesn't
the
understand you.
no, because I actually think that's part of the problem. It just doesn't understand me. Um, like one of the things it says, like today's feature is called the Q&A. It's called a Q&A session or something. And like one of the examples it says is ask it what YOLO is. And if you ask it what YOLO is, it doesn't know. It spells out yellow. Like you have to spell YOLO and then it goes, "Oh, okay." And then it brings up like a Urban Dictionary definition or something, but
Fail.
it's struggling. But they're trying. They're trying. We're getting there.
They're trying. It's like past the point of no return, though. You know, like just don't kill it, but just allow people to remap the button, be totally open about it. Like, yeah, if you want Google Assistant, here's an app that will just do it and it's going to be awesome. And then when we're ready with Bixby and we have our big data, then go ahead and roll it out. That's fine. But for now, like don't just have this meaningless button on the side of the phone that still doesn't really do anything.
Right. Unless you're in the
So
early access program, then you can Bixby away. I don't think you can turn like I wonder if you can you I should have probably tried this already, but Bixby. Turn off Bixby. Oh my god, it's gonna turn my phone off. Oh yeah, see, he has no idea. It's like which accessibility setting?
oh gosh.
Yeah, Bixby.
Yeah.
But if that wasn't enough, Samsung is apparently making a Bixby powered speaker now. Because
No.
everyone's making an assistant speaker. Wall Street Journal with this report. They don't have any real details about it other than Samsung's making a Bixby speaker, which makes sense. Like Bixby will be in everything, right? I get it.
Sure.
So as long as because right now I don't think Bixby can really work with, like Bixby can't control my smart home. I don't think. Like I can't ask Bixby to turn my lights off and on, or really work with smart things. I don't think so. That functionality obviously needs to be there because otherwise, why would you want Bixby in a speaker? I actually don't know why you would want Bixby in a speaker until it gets like that stuff.
Yeah, I don't.
Because the point of Bixby now is to like tell it to open apps and do things within an app.
Right.
As a speaker, like it doesn't have apps, so it's kind of weird.
What music service will it use?
Right. So, well, we got time on that. It sounds like, although this report I think said they've been working on it for more than a year. Yeah.
Yikes.
And it's codenamed Vega.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, not bad.
Distant Star.
Yeah. All right. Since we haven't done a show for a couple of weeks, this is semi old news, but we got new CAD renders of the Galaxy Note 8. And it looks like an LG V20. It's so ugly. To me, this thing is ugly.
You're a hater.
I am such a hater. So it looks like a Note 7, but then on the back where the camera module is, there's like side to side, there's like a dual camera setup with flash and heart rate reader and then fingerprint reader. It's like this whole bar up top. And it sticks up above the glass. It's not flat. And of course, it has an S Pen and all that fancy stuff. I think this is bad. You don't think this looks terrible? Like it's got a giant hump on it, just like the V20 did. The fingerprint reader is going to be even harder to find because it's now lifted up off the glass.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really impressed or like too terribly excited about it, but I have to imagine that the cameras are going to be awesome. So that's a plus.
Hopefully the cameras are great. This is one of those where I'll go, yeah, I'll probably just stick with the Galaxy S8 Plus if I'm going to go with the big Samsung guy. Because
yeah, I mean, I guess this phone is for everyone who wants, that S Pen action, which apparently there's a lot of them out there. But
I think we need an official poll on that.
Ooh, yeah.
Do you actually use your S Pen?
It would help if the Note 7 wasn't.
Like I always want to use the pen. Like whenever I have a note and I'm reviewing, I'm like, let's pull the pen out, and then I get it out. I'm like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
I'll draw a smiley face. Yeah.
There's been good times with the S Pen. I mean, my favorite S Pen memory is sticking it in backwards and you get it stuck and it's totally broken. So, I mean, there has been good things to come from the S Pen. So
This is true.
thank you for that, Samsung.
Speaking of that, Galaxy Note 7 Fan Edition
Woo.
is actually a real thing, and it launches today in Korea, July 7th. So when there was talk months and months ago about the Galaxy Note 7 like coming back to life, it, that actually did happen. This is not a joke. You can actually go buy a Galaxy Note 7 after being recalled like 2 or 6 times and like planes lighting on fire or whatever happened. I don't even remember now. Samsung is actually willing to give her another go.
Nice. Yeah, it's the fan edition for all the fans who survived
Yeah.
the first one. So
I just I just do not get this. So it's the same phone. They shrunk the battery and they threw in Bixby, which is kind of
oh,
fun. So Bixby is on there, and they threw in the new UX from the Galaxy S8. So
nice.
you
That's a
do kind of get it's like you do get a
it's a
Note
nice
7
little
with all
upgrade.
the yeah. So you probably wouldn't if you had the Note 7, the original one. Let's say it didn't blow up, you wouldn't have Bixby yet, probably, or this new UX. So it's like they kind of just like fast forwarded, gave everyone thanks for the thanks for the hot times. Here's a updated phone.
Yeah, this guy says the fire edition. I like that. That's a good
Yeah.
one. Fan explosion. I mean,
I
I
just I do not get why would you do this if you're Samsung? They said they're only making like 400,000. Like that's not enough to make you much money, and there's just risk involved. Like what the hell?
I don't know if there's much risk, right? If they fixed all that, but there is like the name. You know, why are you putting that name back out there when you have it's bad PR is
Yeah.
all it is. You know, this isn't gonna save face or like, oh, we've got Note 7s that won't blow up now. Like, check it out. Not when you're so close to the Note 8, right? I mean, it's just nah, it's a bad move.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
I love the hardware still. Like the Note 7 would have been last year's phone of the year for me.
I think so too. Yeah, it was great.
It was a great phone, but then, you know, the stuff happened. so we
Things
kind of
happen.
yeah. So we got a solid number 2 on the list after the OnePlus 3, but
See in
eh,
the chat, I'm sorry if I can't say your name right, but Vidraj says the risk there's a great risk though, even if one phone blows up. Like think about it. If one of these stupid phones blows up, like
oh yeah. Could you imagine?
it just does not seem worth it. But
It's not worth it.
all right. In completely unrelated news, I threw a little fit last night. PlayStation View prices are going up for some people, me
Goodbye.
included.
Yeah.
Yeah, so PlayStation View, for those not familiar, is a streaming TV service. So it's for cord cutters, right? If you want to cut Comcast off, which you all should probably do. Um, there are TV streaming services. PlayStation View is one of them. I've always thought it was the best in terms of channel lineup, and also because I need it to watch Portland Trailblazers games because they have Comcast Sportsnet. But anyway, I've been on it for a long time, probably almost a year or something now. Been on it for a while, but they emailed a whole bunch of customers yesterday and said prices are changing. They do this thing called the Slim package. So they have like 3 packages, and then they have slim versions of those packages. And the slim version of the package is for those markets where they don't actually show live TV channels of like Fox, ABC, CBS, and that stuff. And so they like gave people in those markets a $10 discount because you didn't have access to that stuff. Portland, one of those markets. But what they said is we're doing away with Slim. Everyone's paying the same price no matter what, starting yesterday. And if you were already a customer and in a Slim package, they're giving you 3 months before your price goes up. So if you're a PlayStation View subscriber and you have a Slim package, that's going away, and you will pay more for
nothing.
probably less. I'm just annoyed with them lately because, well, we know they killed all the Viacom channels, which was like MTV and VH1 and stuff. But like a month or so ago, unannounced, they just cut off all the BN networks, which are sometimes, I believe, heavily Hispanic, but they show soccer. So, like, if you're a soccer guy, PlayStation View was a great option because you had all the BN networks and you could watch soccer. And those are just gone now. So, I'm not happy with PlayStation View.
Oh, soccer. Ooh, crickets. No one cares. Bye bye BN networks.
Only the world cares.
Only the world. America
Only the
is the
world.
world. What are you
Not
talking
for-
about?
Not for long. Hi, Don.
I don't want to. I don't
Back.
want to get into that.
Yeah. Hi, Don.
Yeah. Bye bye. But yeah, I've got PlayStation. I'm on a Slim account. I'm about to cancel mine here. I'm not about to do $10 a month. Like I'll just cancel it. Once I cut the cord, I actually realized how much I just use Netflix.
Yeah.
And if I want something else, I'll just do Hulu because then I could like add on HBO to that. Like I just don't need PlayStation View anymore. If I want to stream The Bachelorette, don't judge. Then I'll just use like my friend's Comcast login or something like that. So I'm over it. You know, I'm tired of not having Comedy Central. I'm tired of not having MTV. Like that's the stuff I want. So no reason to pay for something I'm not really even using. So
Yeah,
I'll
we're
wait for
tempted to
YouTube
cut
TV.
too, because we do a lot of Netflix now because of the little one. He watches shows on there,
Yeah.
and then we obviously get movies for him on Google Play Movies, so we use that a lot. And then even Amazon Prime, because I'm a subscriber of that. Obviously, I get tons of content there,
Right.
and we have an HBO Now subscription.
Mm.
So like, we actually rarely turn on PlayStation View anymore unless it's like there's basketball on and that's not happening right now.
Yep.
So
No reason to be paying.
yeah, we may actually cancel it as well. And then I'll just wait for YouTube TV to finally show up and then maybe we'll slide back in there.
$35, man. Like that's the way to do it. And like I love their UI so darn much. As it was just so much more like I understand it doesn't have an Android TV app, a native app. I'm sure it'll come.
I'm
Just
sure
give it
it'll come.
time.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be here eventually. It's Android. It's Google. They have to make a damn Android TV app for YouTube. All right. Let's see. Project Fi news. We don't talk about Project Fi that much anymore.
Dang.
Not that that's because it sucks, but just because it's not the cheapest option, number one. And number two, like no phones work on it.
Mm.
That could change. Project Fi on Twitter randomly the other day tweeted out, "We hear you loud and clear. Keep an eye out for a new Fi compatible device at a mid-tier price from one of our partners later this year." So if we unpack that, that's actually a pretty big announcement. Number one, mid-tier priced phone to Project Fi is a big deal because right now Pixel is it, and Pixel phones are definitely not mid-tier or mid-tier priced. And previously you had the 5X, which kind of was, but I don't think that's been available for a while. And number two, partner phone. So that means a non-Google made phone. That's a pretty big deal. So I don't know if that means Project Fi is going to start opening this up to other people, or if this is like a one-off just to test it. But EvLeaks thinks it's going to be the Moto X4. So when Motorola announces this Moto X4, it should be mid-tier priced phone, and it should work on Project Fi. So that's cool. A good reason, or I guess it's another reason for people to consider Project Fi, which if you're not a Pixel owner, you can't really do. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the more phones that kind of jump on that, the better. I hope it's like we see much more of this.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And how many phones? Motorola has obviously been one that's pushed this for a while. The carrier support on all 4 major US carriers, which is kind of a requirement, but like HTC is working on that. Who else has been doing that lately? Well, Motorola has definitely been up there, but Samsung has a couple of phones. Their Unlocked Galaxy S8 does, but so we're seeing more phone makers like adopt that model, which makes sense for Fi then, because you have to be T-Mobile and Sprint, which are like one CDMA still, one's obviously not. So we could see more. I just think it's up to Google to want to open that up, and I guess the manufacturer willing to dive in and build in that support, because there is some stuff on the back end that has to happen. So. All right, and finally, this week we got the July Nexus and Pixel security patch. Still 7.1.2. Yeah, go get it if you haven't. I think there was some issues the other day when this first came out. Was that yesterday? Not 2 days ago, where some Pixel devices were having an issue pulling the update and weren't able to do it. I'm actually not sure if Google's addressed that, but there was an issue. Either way, go try to download and see what happens.
Yeah. New Android. Where's Android? Oh, man.
Well, wait. Next month? Oh, so next week then. Wait, what does the calendar look like? End of next week, we could see
new beta?
Probably. It's always like mid-month, right? Yeah, so it could be like Wednesday or Thursday, I would think, maybe. So yeah, we could see a new preview. and then probably into August, right? Is what we're
Yeah,
thinking for the
that's what we're thinking.
stable. We're getting there.
I'm excited. I'm totally pumped up.
Android is pretty good.
It's pretty sweet. Like I've been rocking the beta on the XL. It's pretty dope.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
Just the little tweaks to some of the notifications and stuff are nice.
Yeah, it's so fancy. Like having like the little bubbles on icons and stuff. It's just cool, man. It's just cool.
Good job, Google.
I also love that, these third-party launcher developers like Action Launcher and Nova Launcher building in those tweaks
For sure.
to their own launchers. It's great. It's a good time to be an Android guy.
I guess so. Sawyer in the chat asks, or actually, I think he demands that we talk about the OnePlus 5.
Oh,
Where
you missed
were you for the first 40 minutes, dude?
Yeah.
We talked about
Regenerated.
that. Rewind that, Sawyer. First, seriously, 35 minutes was all OnePlus 5.
Yeah. Regenerated Slave of Christ 03 is asking any word on the Pixel 2.
That's quite the name. That is quite the name.
Yeah, at first I didn't know that was even English, and then I had to squint a little bit, and I got it.
He's a Lakers fan, though.
Yeah. What to say? I don't. You know what? He's a Lakers fan. I'm not even going to answer. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Pixel 2. That's such a confusing situation now, because HTC was making Pixel 2 and 2 XL. And then now we don't think they're making one. We think LG might. I have no idea, to be honest, what's going on there.
It's a cluster.
It is. And I'm not a fan of it. I like the identical version phone. We talked about this thing on the last show. I like the identical thing they did last year. And now when you got HTC building one, LG another, I don't like it.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Oh, Sawyer's back. Talk again. You want us to talk about the OnePlus 5 again?
You could just rewind the show, like if you start the show over. We talk about it for 40 minutes. So let's see. Someone wants a DirecTV Now review. Ain't coming from me, man.
I could probably get my dad to write one of those. He's such a DirecTV Now fanboy.
Really?
He signed up early on, and he went through all the service outage issues and stuff. And every time I talk to him, he's like, yeah, this DirecTV Now stuff is sweet. And he's got the Fire TV box power, and he loves that thing.
Wow.
He's such a fanboy. Yeah, I may ask him to, actually.
That'd be pretty awesome.
It would be pretty awesome. All right, anything else you want to talk about?
I was just trying to look up see if people had questions and stuff. That looks to be about it. If you got any other questions, get them in right now.
Yeah.
Someone's
asking what's confusing if LG is making the bigger one and HTC is making the smaller one in terms of Pixel 2. I think what's confusing about that is that you won't last year, Pixel and Pixel XL, they were identical phones. One was just bigger, obviously battery and screen, but they were design wise, they were identical, made by the same guy, same company. And now you have two companies making two different ones. So is it really going to be Pixel 2 and Pixel XL 2? Because it just doesn't fit what they did last year. I think that's all. It's not like it's that confusing. I get it. It's just, I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's just a personal preference. I know it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. You still have a big one and a small.
I think it is a big deal, man.
It
sucks.
It bugs me. Yeah. I like that they were just identical. Now they're not.
Right. I mean, the 5X and the 6P, they were just so radically different from one another. Yeah. I wasn't a fan of that yet. LG and Huawei, it was Google they do this all the time, dude. Even on Android Wear with the Watch Sport versus the Watch Style, both things are just so different. It's they're trying to show you two different visions of the same thing. And I'm just not a fan of that. So, I saw another question from Mitchell. Anything about Sony Xperia Premium? You're watching the wrong podcast, man. We don't talk about Xperia phones. Sorry.
Yeah, apologies for that. There was a time where I was kind of a Sony compact fanboy, but Sony, for a couple of years there, they just started really going down the drain, I thought, and they haven't changed design in a while. And their stuff, when it does come to the US, there's no carrier involvement. They're unlocked, but they're stupid expensive. It's just hard for us to we've had outside of a couple guys on the podcast like this, people ask about it. No, our inbox is never are you guys going to review this? You should review it. No one no one's really pushing it. So sorry about that.
Yeah. See a couple people asking about the V30. We're looking at September, IFA, early September for an unveiling.
Yeah.
So, but we don't
Yeah, I
really. I
don't.
mean, you can expect pretty much like a V20, an updated V20. I would assume.
I thought I saw a rumor that said the ticker was probably going away, which would be
Good.
great because that ticker
That'd be
thing is
awesome.
just. I know, like you got to be careful. Like V phone owners they're aggressive. They don't like you criticizing anything about their stuff,
No.
but I would be fine if the ticker thing went away.
Yeah.
The
All right.
V30 could actually be sweet just because of what LG did design wise with the G6. You know,
Oh,
like if they
sure.
make it all like display and all that, it could be all right.
Yeah. Slap in a G pen. We'll call it a G pen.
Give me that DAC back.
Yeah, give me that DAC. All right, two more questions. Heard anything about a new Moto 360? No, that's not going to happen, dude. Moto is out of the game.
Yeah, they said they're like we're not doing. They're like no one cares about smartwatches. We're not doing them anymore.
They were
Which is kind of sad because they were like, but they actually said like we're not making one probably ever again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Vedraj. I know you said Kellen pronounced it wrong last time, so I'm trying to make up for it. But anyway, he says, "What were your first phones?" Well, my first smartphone was the Droid, the OG Droid from Motorola, like way back in the day. But before that, something that you could, I guess, consider being a smartphone, it had web access on Verizon's 3G network, was the LG Voyager, because I hated the BlackBerry. So I got that, and everyone said it was an iPhone killer back then. I always laugh about that. Like, no, it did not kill the iPhone. It just killed itself. Like that phone, it was cool, but like it sucked compared to an iPhone. It didn't have apps, you know. So
yeah,
what about you?
My first phone ever was a it was just like a basic like Nokia black and white tiny crappy candy bar style phone that like it was on I think it was like Blackfoot Mobile or something like that in Montana. And the service was so limited because it was like I was out of high school, right? And like back then you probably still do. You had to have like a credit card and like a credit score and stuff to sign up for service. My parents weren't about that at the time. But Blackfoot Mobile, all you needed was a checking account. You know, I was like 19 or something. So like I signed it, and like the service was so bad. In my hometown, like their map was a map of like the valley corridor that I lived in. And if I got like outside the golf course where my town was, like the service just died. So like I couldn't even like leave town and get that thing to work. But first smartphone was BlackBerry Curve on Verizon, and then swapped that for a BlackBerry Tour. And then the BlackBerry Tour crapped out on me, and that's when I picked up the OG Droid.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that BlackBerry crapped out on you.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal.
Huge. It started a lot of stuff.
Yeah, if that hadn't, I might be still using Blackberries.
BlackBerryLife.com. Last one, because it's a very personal one. Richard asks, "How is Ron doing? I miss Ron. LOL." He's LOLing because he doesn't really miss Ron. No, Ron's doing well. He's always on Twitter still. Feel free to. I'm pretty sure it's just at Ron Offringa. But he seems to be doing well. We talk sporadically here and there about like stuff that's happening. He seems to be doing good.
That NFC is a big deal.
Finally, after years. I mean, way back in the day, I forget what phone it was, but he was like, "Nah, NFC sucks," or it's like not, going to be a big deal.
He loves it now. Everyone now wants to know though, why is Trump in his room?
I got him as a joke, really, because it's just like that's just my sense of humor. It's pretty much like I'm the funniest guy now. Anyway, yeah, I got him because I'm such a non-Trump guy that I was like, I want Trump around now. Like I want to be reminded every day of like what I'm resisting. So
I just love it that it's this giant like 6-foot cutout of Trump with like, thumbs up with the tie to his knees.
Oh yeah,
it's just hilarious.
He's like actually life size too. He's like the solid Trump. He's like 6 something. Like that thing is. Yeah, that thing. What I really started to do when I first got him was I would just take him around and take pictures with him in funny locations. But then I was like, I don't know. I got some weird looks from people, and I was like, I don't want people to think that I'm like, out here like promoting his message or anything. So I'm not a very political guy anyway. So it's just funny.
It's just funny. That's all.
Yeah. If people get a kick out of it, or if they like, get that hair on the back of their neck, I was like, ooh, they're feeling like a little triggered. I did my job.
So many snowflakes.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's wrap up. We answered a bunch of questions. That was fun though. We should do that like at the end of every show if we haven't gone on for like 2 hours.
Thanks for sending them in, folks.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. Again, OnePlus 5 review is up, both written and video review. Be sure to check that out if you are interested. We'll have Moto Z2 play review hopefully of the next week. And then it should be Essential phone hopefully after that. Maybe some more Moto Z2 action. Who knows? I feel like there's just stuff kind of coming out every couple of weeks. So anyways, stay tuned. Thanks for joining us and be safe this weekend. We're Droid Life.
Peace.